For all the mystery that surrounds the Masons, they're not a bad bunch of blokes once you get to know them. Traditionally, they meet by night, known only to one another by a secret sign. Members must be just, upright, free men of sound judgment and strict morals. Intakes have been down, the existing membership ageing. Many of the Brotherhood no longer drive at night, others have moved into retirement homes. Founded in England, the movement has been around for 275 years. Beside holding rituals known only to members, the Masons raise funds for charity groups, aged care and retirement villages. The Maitland Masonic Lodge, Unity No. 4, established in 1840, has stuck it out with night meetings while others have changed, with the result of more members being able to attend.
All those, mostly, have increased their membership from at least 30%. So that's where we want to go. We want to go from about 70 members up to about 100 members again at least.
It was 4 degrees when Gary Wolstenholme and Ian Garbett left England. Today it was in the mid-30s.
Well, I think it's a bit too warm for me.
They're here for the Lake Macquarie International Amateur Golf Championship, the #1 tournament of its kind in the country. Gary Wolstenholme is the British amateur champion and son of the legendary player Guy Wolstenholme. Guy spent many years in Australia and won the Victorian Open 5 times. For son Gary, it's almost a homecoming.
When we were first told, I was really pleased to get an invite back here because obviously my father was based in Australia. And for me to come back and play a few tournaments here is great, it really is.
31-year-old Wolstenholme has a big year ahead. As the British amateur title holder, he is invited to the British Open, the Australian and US Masters. The Lake Macquarie Championships tee off on Saturday with 200 players. Aussie champ Lucas Parsons will share favouritism with the visiting Englishman. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
To those who live and holiday around Lake Macquarie, the wide open spaces in the city are a dream. But to the council, it contributes to an administrative nightmare. Although the city is the 5th most populous area in the state, almost a third of its land is non-rateable. What's more, because of the city's geography, the ever-growing population is widely spread, forcing services to be duplicated and associated costs to be as much as 50% higher than in more concentrated areas.
The City of Lake Macquarie is disabled to provide the adequate service and to the community because of a shortage in capital.
To try and get more state money for the next financial year, the Council has submitted a report to the New South Wales Local Government Grants Commission. Using the catchword disability, the report paints a stark picture of a council financially struggling to maintain a wide range of services, including garbage collection, libraries, aged and youth facilities, and roads. One of the areas of greatest concern is the very future of the focus of this city, the lake itself. In this report, the Council openly admits that while public pressure is growing for improved water quality and control of pollution, the finances to do that are simply not there. Ironically, also targeted for putting pressure on council services is one industry that the city is keen to promote: tourism.
Well, this is good for our community in one sense, but it also creates a burden on our council to provide these extra services. And I believe the Grants Commission should take this in consideration.
The Local Government Grants Commission has already received about 40 submissions from around the state seeking more financial assistance. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
About 30 blocks of land at North Arm Cove have recently been sold for between $10,000 and $40,000. However, these and about 1,200 other blocks in the area are zoned non-urban, which means people can buy them, but they can't build on them. While it seems purchasers were aware of this, the council has now erected a sign near the properties, warning prospective investors about the zoning restriction. Deputy Shire Clerk Jerry McDonough says council has no intention of rezoning the land. Bob Martin, member for Port Stephens, says he will raise the matter in Parliament when it resumes. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Just under 4,000 fans turned out to watch the Socceroos, not seriously contemplating a victory for the struggling Breakers. And the way the national team started, it appeared as though it was going to be one-way traffic. Gray hitting the woodwork, and Mike Gibson called on to make a fine save. At the 11-minute mark, a dreadful mistake by Andy Koska allowed Spink to open the scoring. But that seemed to be the signal for the Red and Blues to go forward. Kosh over the top after a good build-up, and then Heddle went tantalisingly close. Time and again the Breakers attacked, but desperate defence and a tinge of luck kept the locals at bay. Until the 41st minute, Koska brilliant. Stung into action, the Socceroos surged upfield. Wade brought down just outside the box, and from the free kick, the woodwork got in the way once again. The second half belonged to the Breakers, with both camps making plenty of changes. Van Blerk went close for the Socceroos, and then the unbelievable, the Breakers took the lead. From then on, Maloney made it his show, forcing Zabika to make a great save and then knocking one over the top. Meredith and Peterson exchanged words in a bit of push and shove before Maloney struck a telling blow. (3-1) and the score could have been more embarrassing for the Socceroos as Maloney again bamboozled the defence. With players almost to a walk, referee Davies' final whistle was timely and a reminder to coach Eddie Thompson there's a lot of work to be done before the first match against Sweden on Sunday. Final score, BHP Breakers 3, Socceroos 1.
$250,000 being the first instalment of the $500,000 awarded to tube makers under the Australian Government's Best Practice Demonstration Program. Congratulations to everyone.
For Lake Macquarie Council, preserving the area's natural beauty is a priority. Council aims to achieve this through an integrated park system linking foreshore bushland.
If we're going to provide a future for Lake Macquarie for future generations, we have to guarantee that there will be a protected green area.
In total, the area will measure 3,000 hectares. It includes 7 sites, stretching from Awabba Bay to Pulborough Island and south to Crangan Bay.
The costing of this is negligible, because we're going to be calling upon the assistance of the community to maintain these parks.
To maximise enjoyment and use of the areas, a walking trail will also be set up around the perimeter of the lake. The integrated park system is the latest addition to the Council's local environment plan, which is a 5-year scheme designed as a framework for the protection and maintenance of the environment. This plan is currently being reviewed. Once completed, it'll be presented to state government for approval later this year. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Speculation has surfaced that Mr Keating has asked his Deputy Prime Minister Brian Howe to review the government's $800 million Better Cities plan, $87 million of which had been earmarked for Newcastle over the next 5 years. According to the President of Newcastle's Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Scott Derwin, the money would be the catalyst for the city's showpiece plan to develop 50 hectares along the city's waterfront for residential, recreational and business use. It's a 20-year plan that also depends on private sector investment. The state government has committed itself to the project that is also a priority for the Chamber of Commerce.
Obviously, if that was the case, we'd be bitterly opposed to any suggestion of that. The Commonwealth Government has given an undertaking in relation to the Better Cities funding, and obviously Honeysuckle is relying upon that. Honeysuckle, to make it a viable project, needs capital from governments to give it a kickstart. And certainly let's hope that it's only speculation which will be proven to be untrue.
The Deputy Prime Minister Brian Howe is on a week's leave. Staff at his office could neither confirm nor deny whether the Better Cities program was being reviewed. Andrew Lobb reporting for NBN News. Mr Warner's Koala 202 aircraft, along with 2 others, had just completed a low-level formation flypast of the Gloucester airstrip. Onlookers saw the plane bank sharply to the left, its wingtip clipping the ground.
Left wing hit the ground.
Mr Warner, an experienced ultralight pilot aged in his 50s, suffered multiple fractures and head injuries in the crash. He was taking part in a regular club outing at the airstrip. The Koala 202 is a homemade kit aircraft frequently flown by the Windsock Aero Club at Medowie near Newcastle. Mr Warner is known in the ultralight movement. His teenage son died in another aircraft accident when his light plane suffered airframe failure and crashed at Medowie several years ago. The Bureau of Air Safety is expected to compile a report on the incident. Andrew Lobb reporting for NBN News. This is probably one of the quickest ways to clear half a dozen kilos of prawns. It's the inaugural regatta prawn eating competition. The world record for shelling and downing a kilo stands at 2.5 minutes. No records broken today, but 1 or 2 competitors cleared their plates. The prize for finishing, table manners excused, a dinner for 2 at a seafood restaurant. Elsewhere along the foreshore, complete with sea shanties, the HMAS Brunei and patrol boat Fremantle opened their doors to visitors. The Port Hunter Sailing Club entered the true spirit of the regatta, along with old world vessels and new. Others dreamed of getting out on the water themselves. Miniature tugboats manoeuvred precious cargoes, while venturers looked for a mast to climb. According to organisers, the best is yet to come, with Formula One boat and ski racing.
It all starts in the morning at 9 o'clock, and we've got probably the largest and most spectacular regatta that the people of Newcastle and the Hunter region have ever seen for Australia Day tomorrow and again on Monday.
Appoint you to be our Captain General and Governor-in-Chief in and over our territory called New South Wales.
With the Union Jack unfurled and a man dressed in Georgian clothes, the 200 people attending the Australia Day celebrations at Newcastle City Hall could have been forgiven for thinking they were in a time warp. If the ceremony reminded the audience of how English settlement began in Sydney Cove 204 years ago, Australia Day ambassador and winemaker Brian McGuigan outlined just what the celebration means in 1992. And what's a birthday without a song? The RAAF Air Command Band put some brassy oomph into a piece of Peter Allen patriotism. At Lake Macquarie's Spears Point Park, thousands celebrated Australia Day by flying the flag or having a cold beer. For 99 people from 15 nationalities, the day had special significance as they became naturalised Australians. Coral and Bob Brown of Spears Point were given an Australia Day double delight. Not only do they now have a son, Timothy, but their new addition was the firstborn in the Hunter today. And in Gosford, the city became a fun fair as the festivities spilled onto the streets. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
"103 motorbike riders from Newcastle, Sydney, Kempsey, Macleay and out west from Gunnedah hammered man and machines over the Manning River Motorcycle Club's course in the inaugural Australia Day Challenge. All sorts of races were held, from the traditional dirt track sliders to motocross bikes, juniors on 60 and 80cc machines and also the 1000cc sidecars. Amongst the amateur riders, a couple of notables showing how it's done. Multiple national title holder Chris Watson from Cessnock was the star attraction, but he received strong opposition from Macleay's Jamie Oram and local lad Tony Hyde. Organisers are hoping the event will continue as part of the Taree Aquatic Festival weekend, and I'll bet a few of the bike jockeys were looking to quench their thirst after a day of dust and dirt. Many chose the serene banks of the Manning River for their Sunday pastime, casting an eagle eye over proceedings on the water and the continuation of the powerboat races as part of the Aquatic Festival. One of the major races today was the Unlimited Unblown, and some of the quickest craft strutted their stuff over a calm course. Seabreeze jumped to the lead right from the outset and issued the challenge to the others, catch me if you can, and they certainly tried their hardest. At one stage, the tunnel-hulled repeater closed within a couple of boat lengths of Seabreeze, but down the straights the monohull had too many horses in the back and was able to stretch his lead. In the closing stages of the race, Prime Mover came from the clouds to edge out repeater, but there was no doubt about the winner. And the ladies weren't to be outdone, and the invitation race was full of furious action, with one lady creating havoc as she stole a march on the rest of the fleet. Overnight leader Lucas Parsons wasn't in the form he was yesterday, but his 73 leaves him well in touch with the trophy he would like to add to his national amateur crown. There has been some solid movers. Toronto's Wayne Stewart staked his claim with a 1 under 71 and is now 3 under for the tournament, as is Michael Campbell of New Zealand. Aaron Burns is 4 under along with David Armstrong from Victoria, who has been consistent with rounds of 69-71 to trail Woolston home by a single shot. But the wily Englishman, who is as comfortable on Aussie courses as those back home, sent a message to those 72 golfers who made the cut. I'm the one to beat. His round of 67 today included 2 sensational eagles to have him the overnight leader with 2 rounds to play.
Frank Wade joined the New South Wales Ambulance Service when he was 16. Over the years, he's been based at 5 different stations, including Dungog and Hamilton. Today, he said goodbye to his friends at the Regional Control Centre, where he's worked since 1982.
Thanks, Harry. It's been really good working with you. We're really going to miss you.
Okay, thanks very much, Harry.
Mr. Wade says there's been many highlights during his year's service, including this presentation of an award by Sir David Martin, former Governor of New South Wales. It was one of the last functions Sir David attended before he died. Or this moment, which was on the front page of the Sydney Mirror. The woman was stabbed at Bondi and had to be carried out through a narrow lane. Mr. Wade is also on the Ambulance Honours List. In 1984, he was named Ambulance Officer of the Year. While he admits it's sad to leave the job, he says it's time for a change. What are you going to do with your time now, Frank?
Do all those little jobs I've never had time to do. All those jobs around the house, and sort of, I look at it this way, my life's taking a new direction now, this retirement's come along.
For the past few days, this has been a familiar sound on the Manning River. Today came the climax of Tari's Aquatic Festival with some of the state's fastest boats out on the water. The RSL Strait Course Invitational Classic was won by Air New Zealand, driven by Barry Chapman, from 10 other contenders. Upper Hawkesbury boats, Repeater, driven by Brian Clinch, and Purpose Built, piloted by Alan Smith, came second and third respectively. The ladies' invitation race went to Havoc, followed by Maureen and Free Spirit, and California Blue took out the Manning River Open Championship. On a quieter note, sailors from all over the state gathered on the river for the VS state titles. 18 entries contested 3 heats over the weekend. The 15-foot-long craft, crewed by 3 people, are known as miniature 18-footers. The remaining 2 heats of the championship will be contested at Vaucluse in Sydney in a fortnight's time.
This is a familiar sound for 17-year-old Amanda Bradley. On the weekend, she hit 12 in a row in a perfect score in an under-21 championship against Australia's best juniors.
On the 12th frame, I was really nervous and I started crying after I bowled, and Nan and Pop were crying and everyone was yelling and screaming. It was really good.
Amanda is the first Australian junior girl to make the perfect 12 knockdowns and is only the second Aussie woman to do it. A state rep, she's won championships across the country and her future could be as a professional in the US.
There's a lot more money over there than what there is over here.
But while she's one of the best, it's heartening to know she still misses the odd one. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The government's Back to School campaign has been very successful. Since 1990, retention rates have increased from 76% to an expected 85% this year. In this release, Minister for School Education Virginia Chadwick says that finishing the HSC is a very good starting point for young people in today's difficult economic times. But some students who've done that aren't so sure. 19-year-old Matthew is just one of many young people who completed their HSC last year and are now out of work. Matthew would like to get a job. The only problem is he's unskilled and too old.
Yeah, too old to get a junior wage, and you're either underqualified or overqualified, so I don't know what in between's supposed to be.
According to the Department of Education, of those who sit for the HSC, around 50% won't get a mark high enough to get into a tertiary institution. Many of them say they go back to school because they get paid by the government to do so.
Was Austudy a bit of an incentive for you to go on?
A little bit of an incentive.
Of the 3,387 students who finished Year 12 last year in the Hunter region, 688 applied for the job search allowance last month. In the state, that figure increases to nearly 4,000. The Department of Education agrees the HSC may not be beneficial for all students, but says gone are the days when a job could be had without any skill at all.
It's just a fact of life today that education and training is what the world needs and wants.
"17 staff are crammed into this building. It was only ever meant to be a temporary arrangement, and that was back in 1985. This constable's cubbyhole is now a meal room, come locker room, come training centre. Inspector John Gillett says the situation's beyond a joke.
You've got people just falling over each other. Now, it's very difficult to maintain proper discipline, proper morale when your staff are forced to work under these sort of conditions.
Plans for a new station next to the courthouse were on the drawing board as far back as 1988. When that will go ahead, no one knows. The other option, the soon-to-be vacated Foster Primary School. The going price, around $4 million. The Education Department is keen, the Police Department is not. In fact, the department says Foster is way down the priority list. A decision will be made in the next couple of weeks. Meanwhile, this coastal constabulary will have to tough it out in a station which they say has had its day.